Ever feel like, I don't know, maybe you're drowning in information, like between all the podcasts and articles and that reading list that just keeps growing, it's just so easy to get overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Even with stuff we actually want to learn about.
It really is. It's like what do they call it? The paradox of choice or something.
Right.
So much to know, but then we just end up doing nothing.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're tackling in this deep dive, but with a twist. We're looking at, well, it's a segment from this Christian show called Bible Lens.
Okay.
They basically take these stories from the Bible and try to connect them with, modern life.
Interesting. So, like, make them relevant.
Yeah, exactly. And trust me, this story, it's definitely unexpected. So picture this. 1800s, you've got this Scottish immigrant, William McPherson, working in the American quarries.
Oh, wow. Tough job.
Tough job, even before things go really bad for him.
Oh, no. What happened?
Dynamite explosion. And we're talking 19th century here, long before like OSHA and all those safety rules.
Yikes. Yeah. Can't imagine the conditions back then.
No kidding. And this wasn't, just a little accident. This explosion, it took his hands, his eyesight, and even messed up his ability to speak clearly. So talk about a life completely changed.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your head around that kind of loss, like to suddenly lose all those senses.
It really is. And then, his family couldn't care for him, so he ended up in a home for the disabled. It's around this point in the Bible Lens episode that they talk about his spiritual turning point, I guess you could call it. Someone introduces him to Christianity, and he converts.
Huh. So in the midst of all that, he finds faith.
It is pretty wild, right? And this is where the story takes a turn.
Okay, I'm listening.
So he's newly devout, right? And he wants to read the Bible desperately. But, I mean, how? How do you read the Bible when you can't see, can't use your hands, and can barely speak?
Right. Yeah, that's a huge obstacle.
We've all heard those stories about, people overcoming challenges like that. Wasn't there a blind girl who learned to read Braille with her lips?
Yeah, I think I heard about that. Human resilience, right?
Yeah, amazing. But even that wasn't possible for William. His injuries were so severe. The Bible Lens host really emphasized that, how desperate he was, praying for a solution, just a way to connect with his faith.
It's like his world had shrunk down to almost nothing, and he was clinging to this one thing.
And then, I don't know how, but he discovers he can feel the Braille letters.
Wait, how? With his fingers?
No, with his tongue.
His tongue?
Yeah.
Seriously?
It's not presented as like a straight-up miracle in the Bible Lens episode, but you can't help but think, how else could he have figured that out?
Wow, that's, talk about determination, right? Like, most people would have just given up.
Oh, but he didn't give up. And here's the thing. It wasn't, some easy solution, reading this way with his tongue on the Braille.
Yeah.
Painful. Really painful. The episode goes into the bleeding and the constant soreness.
Oh, man. That's just, it's hard to even imagine.
But he kept at it, persevered.
You said he wanted to read the Bible, right? Like the whole thing.
The entire Bible. And he read it 4 times this way.
4 times. Using only his tongue. I mean, that level of dedication, that's just...
It's mind-blowing. And the host, they use his story as a challenge to their viewers. Like, if this guy could do it, what's our excuse, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have eyes, hands, phones with Bible apps.
Yeah.
And we still complain about not having enough time.
It makes you think, huh? It's humbling, right? Like, here's this guy literally bled for knowledge, and we're like complaining about not having time to read a book.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? But, I think it also points to something bigger, like maybe the texts we're ignoring, they're not always, actual books.
I see what you mean.
They could be relationships, skills, things they want to create, anything that asks us to, like, really lean in, push past the hard parts and really dedicate ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like we're surrounded by all these amazing chances to grow, to connect, but we're just so stuck in the everyday that we don't even notice them.
It's like, I don't know, maybe we've all got a bit of attention deficit disorder now. Information overload, constant stimulation.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder to, like, really focus on something.
And the crazy thing is, we've got more tools than ever to help us focus. Noise-canceling headphones, meditation apps, all that productivity stuff. But we still struggle.
That's what's so interesting about it. It's like, maybe it's not just about all this stuff around us. Maybe there's something deeper going on, something in our heads.
Like what?
Well, they're doing a lot of research on, the psychology of motivation and willpower. Some researchers think that our brains They're wired for instant gratification, that quick reward instead of the long-term stuff.
So even when we know something's good for us, like reading or learning something new, it's just too tempting to go for that quick hit of pleasure, like checking social media or whatever.
Exactly. It's almost like our brains are working against us.
So what do we do? How do we, fight that?
The good news is willpower, it's kind of like a muscle. You can strengthen it with practice, and that's where William McPherson's story comes in. He's like living proof that even when things are unbelievably hard, we can train ourselves to overcome those natural urges.
So how do we do that? How do we build that mental muscle?
One thing you can try is starting small. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one small thing and focus on that. Maybe read for 15 minutes before bed, or take a walk without your phone for half an hour.
The key is to do it consistently, right? Build those little habits day after day.
Exactly. And there's another idea that comes into play here. Grit. It's basically like the ability to keep going, even when things are tough, not giving up.
So you're saying maybe William wasn't just some superhuman with crazy willpower. Maybe he was just incredibly gritty. Like he found something he truly cared about and just refused to let anything stop him.
Exactly. And that's something we can all learn from. We don't have to be geniuses or superheroes to achieve amazing things. We just need to be willing to put in the work, to be okay with being uncomfortable while we grow, and to keep moving forward even when it feels like we're going backwards.
So it's not just about the Bible or even religion. It's like a roadmap for anyone who wants to break through those limits they think they have.
Precisely. It's a reminder that we're capable of so much more than we think. We get to choose what we focus on, we can learn to be persistent, and we can truly connect with those things that matter most to us, whatever those things are.
It's almost like a call to action hiding in a historical story. And it's not about, being religious or anything. It's about understanding that human willpower is incredibly powerful when we find something that truly motivates us.
And maybe, just maybe, the most important question we can ask is this. What texts in our own life are waiting to be found? What knowledge haven't we tapped into? What skills haven't we built? What relationships have we been neglecting? What has the potential to change us if only we were willing to try?
Wow, that's an incredible thought. And now I'm thinking about all the things I've been putting off.
It's a lot to think about, right? And it's really interesting, even within the Bible itself.
Wait, hold on. Even within the Bible? What do you mean?
Well, don't forget, the Bible lens people, they're coming at this from a specific angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see the Bible not as just one book, but like this collection of writings spanning centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got different styles, different voices, even different, how do I put this?
Readability levels?
Yeah, exactly. Like some parts are just tougher to get through than others.
So even for William, dedicating his whole life to reading this one text, it doesn't mean he loved every single part equally.
Exactly. Some sections were probably harder, or maybe even kind of boring.
Oh, totally. I mean, I love history, right? But some periods, man, they're just dense, like hiking uphill through mud compared to a nice stroll in the park. But the view from the top, that deeper understanding, that's what makes it worth it.
And that's where William's story brings us back to persistence.
Right.
It's not about enjoying every single page. It's about pushing through the tough parts because the whole thing, the overall message, it matters to you.
So, even with the Bible, the book this guy literally bled to read, there were probably times he just wanted to quit. But he didn't.
Think about that for a second. This wasn't just casual reading, This was a struggle, every single word. And yet he kept going. To me, that shows how deep his commitment was, the meaning he found, even in those difficult parts.
It's like he was training his mind to focus, to really engage, even when it was incredibly hard. And that's got to be a useful skill no matter what you're doing, right? Not just for religious study.
Absolutely. And it's a skill that's more and more valuable these days. I mean, if William could block out the whole world and concentrate on one Braille letter at a time with his tongue, we can probably manage to put our phones down for an hour and focus on something, right?
Right. So what's the big takeaway for our listener? What have we learned from all this?
Well, I think William McPherson's story, it reminds us that we're capable of so much more than we think. We have the power to choose what we focus on, to learn how to be persistent, to truly engage with the texts that matter most to us, whatever those may be.
Yeah, it's like a call to action hidden in a historical story. And it's not about religion. It's about understanding that the human will is incredibly powerful when we find something that really motivates us.
And maybe the best question we can ask ourselves is this: what texts in our own lives are waiting to be discovered?
Hmm.
What knowledge, what skills, what relationships have we been neglecting? What could transform us if we were willing to put in the effort?
That's a great question to end on. Something to think about as we go through this crazy world of information and opportunity. Until next time, folks, keep diving deep.